Party's not a party's a man who fights crime, and we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Bat Minute of the Phantasm. This is the podcast where we know we made a promise. And that promise was to talk about each minute of Batman Mask of the Phantasm, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
I am your other host, John Parker, and Niall, you got your revenge. I basically wrote that too.
Hey.
God damn it.
Well, I'm introducing the minute now. I'm going to have to be like, oh, that's right. Yeah, so the thing that John said at the end of the last minute, or the start of the last minute, it's not going to be a surprise for anybody anymore. Oh, God damn it. But we are joined once again today by a returning guest from the last minute we were in. We have the director of such great movies as All That We Destroy and Satanic Panic. It is Chelsea Stardust.
Hello, that's me. I'm back.
Hey. I feel like you need a theme song if you're introduced by, Satanic Panic. Can we get that band Twin Temple to play you in? That'd be good.
Oh, Be Still My Heart. I love them so much.
They're amazing.
Here's the thing, though. Before we jump in, Chelsea, and maybe you've not got any real dirt on the subject, but like, if we go through your production history, you've got a couple of features to your name, but also long production line history where you worked on like loads of stuff, like all the Blumhouse films, some of the Judd Apatow stuff, things like that. But the thing that really caught my eye was that you worked on a film called Postgrad. Which featured one Michael Keaton. And so I feel like I gotta ask, like, if you were on the set of Postgrad, did you meet Michael Keaton?
Okay, great question. Yes. So that was the first job I had in Los Angeles. I was the assistant to the vice president at Montecito Picture Company. Montecito Picture Company is owned by Ivan Reitman, rest in peace. And he was like, it was a great company to work for. He was incredible. I called him Papa Reitman. And they shot a movie during that time called Postgrad, which was directed by Vicki Jensen. So first real movie set I got to be on. Also a movie directed by a woman, which was really cool. And the cast of that movie is Michael Keaton, Jane Lynch, Carol Burnett, Alexis Bledel, oh my God, Rodrigo Santoro. It's a huge,
amazing.
It's a pretty epic cast. And the day I went I went to set a couple times because I was also working in the office, so I could only go when I could. I did get to meet Michael Keaton. He was so lovely. Aww. And because again, like, this is my first like year in like living in Los Angeles because I moved right from my hometown to LA. And I always try to not like geek out too much about people's, like I always want to be respectful. I try to find like the deep cut that I'm like, everyone's talking about Batman. They're talking about kind of Mr. Mom. They're kind of talking about the big stuff. So I'm like, what can I talk about that hasn't been talked about a million times? And I'm sure if I would have brought that up, or like, Beetlejuice or whatever, he would have been fine, like, talking about it. But a close friend of mine that I went to college with, her mom went to high school with Michael Keaton. And so I just brought that up. I'm like, hey, do you know such and such? Because her daughter is my best friend. And he just went off about his high school experience, asked how she was, so that was my in. And I'm so glad that was what sort of the end, because then I could be like, also, you're a legend. And it didn't seem weird because I was like, hey, no, I know someone who's been in your life. And so anyways, he was incredible. I actually don't get asked that too much. Like, rarely do I get asked about that movie. You might be the first to have asked me about it. But
I watched it way back in the day as just a Gilmore Girls fan, and like, oh, Rory's in a movie, and it was just a real thing. Like, holy Christ, Michael Keaton's in this. Because it was during that period where Michael Keaton wasn't as active. Like he kind of he was very selective about his roles for a while, and like now he's kind of had the Keatonaissance.
Yes.
And now he's back in a big bad way. But that was one of the few where you're like, oh Christ, Michael Keaton, he's back. He's in a thing again.
Yeah, so I have crossed paths with our the to me OG Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Also, I love because you've done so many things. I was like, I wonder if there any direct links to the Batman animated series, and the closest I could get in a weird way is that it's kind of like it's almost like it's like the nemesis of the DCAU, because you worked in Satanic Panic with Rebecca Romaine and Jerry O'Connell, who for a long period of time there, in the last like 10 years or so, were doing the voices of Lois Lane and Superman in the other, like, I don't know what they call that now, the DC other cinematic animated universe or whatever they refer to it as. But there was that period where they were just like, oh, it's all connected movies, but it was like Rainn Wilson was Lex Luthor, and it was kind of like the one big long story arc, but it wasn't this DCAU. So yeah, it's weird. It's like, oh, we're so close, but it's like, no, we got the other someone who knows the other Lois Lane.
That's right.
That's right. Lois Lane.
So I love that you asked about that.
Yeah. I like maintaining in my head though that Michael Keaton just be talking to people like a normal person.
He is totally.
And as he's leaving, he just whispers in. He just goes into their ear and just whispers, "I'm Batman," and just walks away. Like
absolutely, like super down to earth, super just such a nice person. And I can sort of see. I was like, oh yeah, this is why he's pretty consistently working, because if you see actors, there's a couple actors who will just kind of vanish, and either they had kids or something happened and all of a sudden people stop hiring them, bad behavior, whatnot. And then they have to like make amends, which is something that like, I think that's sort of what happened with like Miles Teller, because he kind of vanished for a while because there was some bad behavior there. And then he came back with like The Offer, Top Gun, all that stuff. It's like, okay, you make amends, you start appreciating people, and then it can help your career. But Michael Keaton has been consistent, so it's sort of like clearly people that get rehired are people that you want to work with, and and he's just amazing. And I hope our paths cross again one day. We'll see.
Yeah,
see, that's what we want to hear. He's our Batman.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
I think we did two whole seasons on him. We never had anyone have a bad word about him. It was always just like, it seems to be. And we were really bricking it about Jack Nicholson, because we were recording like at the height of Me Too. And we're like, something's gonna come out about Jack. He's too sleazy for nothing. And nothing ever did. It was like, oh, thank God.
It was all good stuff about him as well, apparently.
Yeah. Except that one guy, the guy who played the captain in The Red Dwarf, who's one of the goons.
He sounded a bit, I don't want to be mean, he sounded a bit jealous though.
Yeah. And then all the other goons were like, no, Jack was great. Like, it seems more like, well, that guy was the lowest common denominator, so, But anyway, I guess we have to press on with minute 30 of Mask of the Phantasm. Some would argue probably one of the best minutes in any Batman movie ever. I would argue that.
I love this minute. I'm so glad that this fell on me recording, because this minute is f***ing gold.
Yeah, this minute does open with Andrea hanging on the telephone.
Haven't heard that before.
And it ends a minute later with Bruce hanging on the tombstone. See, I rhymed mine, though. Okay,
that's good. That's good. I'll let you off.
Yeah. And we do see Bruce here, like, struck with terror at the front. And the thing is, it's a very relatable feeling, though, of someone just on the phone that you don't want to talk to. If you're just like me, you don't want to ever have to talk on the phone ever.
No. Which is hilarious, because we do a podcast, but I can't use the phone. No.
Oh, once it's organized things, like you're coming on to talk about Batman, it's like, I can do that. But if it's just like a willy-nilly conversation, I'm like, oh my God, I'm out of my depth. I don't know what I'm going to do here.
Same.
Yeah. But, and then Alfred doing the thing that my dad steadfast refused to do when I was a teenager. Of you going like, no, I don't want to talk to them. And Alfred does the thing like, well, what should I say? So, like,
what should I say?
Yeah, my dad would be like, no, you're talking to him. I'm not lying for you. Go and
I get it, because this isn't fair on Alfred. I feel for him. He's standing there. Andrea's on hold. He's obviously going to be desperately trying to come up with something, because Bruce won't give him anything. He says he doesn't know. So he's just like, oh my God, what? Because he doesn't want to ruin anything between them.
It's considering, again, it's an animated performance. And I guess it's just literally the drawing, but Alfred's just like the little glib moment of like his expression doesn't change when Bruce asks
Yeah.
him.
Because he's done this before. We know he's done this before.
True.
Like, Alfred,
Yeah.
this is something where he's like, okay. Because Bruce just being like, I don't know what to say. And Alfred's like, okay, let's see. Let me think back. What's a line I've used before that's worked? Like, you know, he's done this. I know, Alfred, this is not his first rodeo. But put that on him sucks.
He's like, yes, he's gone down to Gotham General's store for the last Diet Coke. Like, oh, no, that was a different Alfred. Oh, no.
One Alfred, this Alfred, they're all the same.
It's like I slipped into my Michael Goff impersonation there for a second. It's like, no, I still have to adapt to the Ephraim Zimbalist version.
Well, him saying as well, like, you know, he's like, Alfred, I can't. And, you know, then he says, I don't know. All of that made me think initially, oh, this is basically him choosing Batman over family and happiness and things like that. But then he's still torn about it, isn't he? Like, as this minute goes on. It's like he's made a decision, but he instantly is like, "Oh my God, no! Is that right? What do I do?"
I get it. This is the most divided we've ever seen him. Like it's Also, like, that second, I just don't know. That's a thing I frequently quote all the time. Like anytime I just don't know something in general.
You say it like that. Do you act like him though, where he turns into an angry Kyle? He downs a Monster Energy drink and punches a hole in the drywall.
See, what I love about this, though, is that he slams the door frame. And we saw him, in the previous 2 minutes, take a wooden bat to the chest and walk it off. But he hits that door frame, and then he has to give his hand a little waft to be like, ow.
Well, he's not got the adrenaline pumping now, you know. It's different.
That's right. That's right.
It'd be like, this reminds me of that bit in Jeff Goldblum in The Fly when he just decides to start beating up a door frame. He's like, look, you think a sick man can do this? Like, he's ruining your own door, man. But like, at least Bruce is like, I'm not going to destroy the door. Like, I'm just going to, hit my hand on it.
Well, he's trying to be super macho and masculine, and then he's like, oh, wait, no, that's stupid. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. The masculinity, struggle as well. So I love a graveyard scene. Love a cemetery scene. Moody. Like one of the moodiest moments in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the conversation he's having like with his parents, basically, and like, you know, he's looking for any sign. I think he's just like, you know, because it says it doesn't, you know, he's talking about it doesn't mean it's a lot of layers. So it's like it doesn't mean I don't care. You know, it doesn't hurt so bad. Which I was like, oh, wow. Like, him sort of reflecting on what this loss is to him, and then him struggling with his alter ego, and talking about, like, doesn't hurt so bad anymore. Things are different now. I'll give money to the city and hire more cops. Someone else can take the risk.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have that, like, that moment of the low shot of the giant crypt with the lightning and the thunder, and then it says Wayne. Like, it's so good. But the line in this section that he's talking about in the cemetery that got me was, I didn't count on being happy. And rarely do we ever see Bruce Wayne or Batman in moments of quote unquote happiness. Like, I don't hear the word happy and associate it with Bruce Wayne / Batman ever. And like I was saying, when we see him like as a daywalker with with Andrea in that scene where they're like together and, you know, having this great afternoon, we never see that ever. There's always just like, he kind of has to put his personal life comes second, because especially I'm talking about like in the movies and things like that always comes second to who I am as Batman. And yes, is he always struggling with his alter ego and other identity? Of course. But this is the maybe only time we ever hear him say the words happy, like lets us know he is happy and he didn't count on it, and how that is affecting him.
Again, the man's mindset is that he thought he would spend the rest of his life never being happy.
We've all been there. Like, come on. This is a depression podcast.
Yeah, but it's just the fact that like, since his childhood, he's just like, I never thought I would actually ever be happy again. It's like, wow, man, that's a depressing life. Like, but I would argue actually in all 5 seasons, or going on 5 seasons now of this show, we've always seen Bruce we've seen Batman in moments of vulnerability. Most notably, I'd say, like the end of Batman Returns when he's like reaching out to Selina and she like, scratches his face and stuff. But I think this might be the only time we ever really see Bruce Wayne. Particularly because we're always coming in at an angle like where he's already Batman, and at that point he is Batman, and he's stoic, and he's closed off, and he's grim, and he's, and even when Michael Keaton was flashing back to his parents' death, he was in Batman mode, and he was just sitting with the head and the finger on his chin, and just sort of like just ruminating on things. We've never seen him this vulnerable. You never seen like this feels like the last remnants of Bruce Wayne just been there, like as an actual human being before he becomes the vengeance and the night and all this business.
And also him saying like, so not counting on being happy. So clearly the happiness he's feeling is helping him, where he says it just doesn't hurt so bad, which is basically like this happiness is maybe is helping me recover from the loss of my parents. Cause that's obviously something to me that he's still like very much struggling with. And so, and again, he said, he's like, basically pleading and begging on his knees about the promise he made. And to me, I was like, well, he's clearly, grief doesn't, that's something that is with you forever, but it's getting a little bit better for him. And he wants to be able to pursue this happiness. But it's like, can he actually have that life? Like and he's sort of like asking his parents for permission. And to be honest, in this scene, it doesn't seem like they're giving it to him.
No, that's a weird thing, because I really felt for him, because he's speaking to them. And when he says that about, that he's not in as much pain and things, he seems to feel guilty about that. Like, well, I'm supposed to be miserable.
Yeah.
But, he needs to accept that, pain of this kind, it doesn't go away. It just changes. You don't get over it necessarily. But he feels like he is, and that's a bad thing. No.
I think that this is like a real clear indication of just how like psychotic that he actually is, though, that he's in this mindset after so many years after his parents' death that he would feel like, I need to hold on to this, and I have to because
it gives him purpose. It gives him purpose.
And just everything about too, it's like, having to ask the tombstone for permission. And then when the lightning strikes, he's just like,
ooh, not good.
Because he's going to go there and be like, if you want me to go off with Andrea, give me absolutely no sign. And then the lightning strikes. He's like, I mean, seriously, like, that might have been a coincidence. And then the lightning keeps striking every time he says something like, God damn it.
It does feel like it's his parents going, no, you must avenge your son.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's just like, hire more cops. It's different now. It's like, get in the fucking tights, kid. Get on your cape. You said you're going to do it 20 years ago. We're holding you to it.
But he's on his knees. He's literally begging for and I was like, whoa, this, and then the storm, because you thought maybe the storm's gonna stop, maybe the sun's gonna, nope, more lightning, more thunder, and get in the tights,
but that's
kid.
what's like fascinating as well, is because obviously we know it's not his parents sending a sign, but his psyche, he might interpret it that way.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
What I really enjoy about this too is particularly, picking up where we left off, and a little element they changed from, I believe it was in the original script and it's in the novelization, when he's first talking to Andrea, and she's like, oh, don't you ever, she's explaining why she's talking to her mother's grave. And then he's like, oh, don't you ever, and then Bruce, in the finished movie, he's like, oh, I talked to my parents, I made a vow. But in the original script and in the novelization, he says, I talked to my parents once, I made a vow. And I wish they had kept it that way, because now it feels like he's taken influence from Andrea and actually going like, I'm going to go talk to I never talked to them, but I'm going to go and actively, like what she does, I'm going to go, and much like she took influence from him, arguably, but then she saw him like leaping up on top of a bike and kicking a guy off, and then later on you see her as the Phantasm jumping on top of Chucky Saul's car in a similar, somewhat fashion. It feels like, these two have learned from each other in a weird way.
I love this. It's sort of this, there was a parallel I thought of when I watched this scene where obviously he's like, I'm happy. He's sort of asking permission. Can I continue on this path to be happy? And in his interpretation of the universe is like, and his parents are like, no, you will keep on this path. You don't get the happiness. It actually reminded me of, I'm giving a James Bond reference, of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where it's the only time we ever see James Bond get married.
Oh, yeah.
And he is happy and he's excited. And then, spoiler alert, his bride gets killed on their wedding day. And it's like, Yes, instantly. And the universe saying, you absolutely do not get to lead this happy life. You will be in a life of darkness, basically.
Yeah.
This is not the path you will walk. And I saw this parallel different circumstances, but also you can see this happiness, this other path, the path of light. And James Bond does not get to ever walk that path.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with this, where this is the chance, he sees the glimmer, and it's like, nope, that is not what you get to experience. But again, it's how he is interpreting it.
Yeah.
Well,
it also really beautifully ties in, because obviously the characterization is written by the same writers and stuff throughout the whole series, but little elements we get of like Bruce Wayne's attitude to being like the tragedy of being Batman is like peppered throughout the show. And like some of the lines really stick out at you, like Robin's Reckoning, where they show you the origin story of like why Dick Grayson became Robin. And after his death, Bruce specifically says to him, "Oh, the pain will get better for you." Like he says it that way, as in like you'll get over this. I'm not. Like I'm still here. Like you don't worry, kid. You'll be fine. But no, you don't want to be like me. And you get little things like this episode, Nothing to Fear, where he's sprayed by the Scarecrow's fear gas, and his major fear is letting down his parents. And so that right here now, seeing like how absolutely like the idea that he could go off and marry someone and be happy is like that would disgrace his the parents that died right in front of him. You got things like was it Perchance to Dream as well, where the Mad Hatter puts him in like a dream machine. And Bruce, within the dream, his parents are still alive. And at one point then, when he's just like, what do you mean? Like, the parents are alive? Like, someone else is Batman. And he's like, oh, the nightmare is over. Like, he actually says the nightmare is over.
Oh.
Like, as if the whole thing is it's weighing on him all the goddamn time. And like, we've been through, 4 live-action movies. We've always seen, like, the burden of it and whatnot. Particularly in '89, there's a real emphasis on like, well, I got a job to do, and he's out there right now, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for the kids' cartoon show again to be like, well, here's the real skinny kids. Like, there's been Batman, ain't all it's cracked up to be. Quite frankly, the guy's miserable.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, and lonely. It's very lonely. Like doesn't get that part of him fulfilled.
Yeah,
it's quite fascinating that he feels like he has to be Batman, even if he doesn't want to. It's like, well, I've got to do it.
Yeah.
It's my mission.
Let's think a bit about this time now, though, because particularly because Empire Magazine did a really excellent feature on Mask of the Phantasm shortly after Kevin Conroy's unfortunate death. Of course, Kevin Conroy died a couple of months ago as of recording. It feels like the appropriate time now to mention like some of Kevin Conroy's motivations will be in this scene, because like he poured a lot into this scene. Actually mentions Andrea Romano, who of course the voice director of the movie. Like, her direct quote about it was like, as soon as he was done, she was like, I don't know where you had to go to get that performance, but thank you for going there. Like, it made all the difference. And now we know exactly where he was going with this, because people aren't aware, Kevin Conroy had a horrific life growing up. He had a alcoholic, abusive father. His brother was schizophrenic. And basically he had to kind of try to hold the family together, but like his mother started drinking. He says several times, like in interviews, like, the police were just fed up of coming to my house because there's constant fighting going on. And they would just leave it alone. It's like, they're not going to kill each other, it'll be fine. But they would do everything else but kill each other kind of thing. And then so Kevin had to move out of the house as a teenager to move in with a friend just to finish his education. And got into acting, went off to Juilliard, where he almost roomed with Christopher Reeve, weirdly enough. Friend of Dana Delaney, Christopher Reeve. And then, of course, he couldn't afford to live where preppy Christopher Reeves lived, so he had to shack up with this guy, Robin Williams. Where the two of them lived together for a while.
What a duo.
Yeah. Robin Williams, of course, been mentioned once or twice in this show for all his many, many connections to the Batman franchise. All his almost connections.
Almost, yeah, every time.
Yeah, but as it was time was going on, weirdly enough, Kevin was in a production, because he still had a very strange relationship with his father. And the major thing was that he was constantly having to repress the fact that he was a gay man. Like, his parents, devoutly Catholic, he could not let that out. And everywhere he was going, it was basically a sign like, you can't come out of the closet, like you'll be massacred for this. And this is in the 80s at the height of the AIDS epidemic. And so he's seeing his friends dropping like flies around him. He's like, really close people. His agent died of AIDS. He's really, really like distraught and having to, again, really repress this side of his life. He's actually then in a play with, what do they call the guy again? He's in a play called Death Trap. With,
yeah.
And then his dad, is the only time his dad ever saw him perform, is that he went to see Death Trap with, was the guy who did...
And Christopher Reeve is in the movie.
Yeah, that's the way. Christopher Reeve and Michael Caine, the future
yeah.
Alfred.
Everything's connected.
Yeah. And he's in it with he basically plays like he's in two characters in a Brian Bedford, who is the voice of Disney's Robin Hood, the sexy fox Robin Hood.
Yeah, everyone's first crush.
Apparently, he was a very, very difficult man to work with, Brian Bedford. Apparently, not all that pleasant. The two of them actively got into like a fist fight on stage at one point. But when he saw Kevin Conroy's father and he seen the thing between them, he was like, "You need to, if your dad dies, and he's going to die really soon, kid. I can see it. Like you'll never forgive yourself for not like attempting to mend the relationship." And so, with an incredible sense of duty to his family, particularly, I'm using those words very deliberately, Kevin Conroy then, like, for the rest of his dad's life, looked after his dad, even though his dad hated him. And like, he was just a constant drunk, constantly abusive. And he writes about all this again in that Finding Batman the comic strip he did for the Pride magazine. This came out there shortly before his death.
Yeah.
And he would try to look after his dad. And he said that the greatest gift his father ever gave him was his dying words, because he just was looking off into space and like started shaking his head going, "Ugh, the great Conroy." And he was just like, "Oh, he's telling me like, this is not, you don't want to die," where you're just looking at things and going like, "What a crappy life I had." Basically, like the kind of mocking himself, going like, "The great Conroy, this is what I've been reduced to. Like, look, I've got nothing. I've got the one son who doesn't really like me. I don't like him. This is the only person here for me." And so and a lot of difficulty landing roles in LA, again, because his sexuality was like, he was repressing it, but also was openly known by people. He thought he was booking a major cop show at one point, and then the producer rang him up and was like, "Why didn't you tell me? Like, you wasted all our time. You're never going to get hired as a lead in this network."
Whoa.
Or things like that. Yeah. And so, of course, Kevin, in Finding Batman, he talks about all of this leading into his audition, where he's like, when they're talking to him about like, oh, someone who has, tragic, his family was torn away from him, and he always felt like an outsider, and he's never been connected with anyone else, and he has to wear this public mask and stuff like that. And he's great final panels where he's talking about like this voice coming up from within him, and that's the Batman voice. And Andrea very specifically talks about this scene as well. It's like, she's saying now in retrospect, you can see that he's channeling a gay man asking his parents to just let him lead the life that he wants to live, and them not giving it to him, because he's basically come out going, "Can I just be okay? Can you just accept that?" And them going, "No." And so it's a heavy scene. I feel like bringing you on, Chelsea. It's like, we have fun on Batman. And usually we do have a lot of fun on Batman.
Hey,
but this is a particularly heavy
we run
scene.
the whole gamut. We have fun. We have deep conversation. Bit of everything.
Yeah.
There's so many layers. That's what these two scenes are like that we talked about, or 2 minutes. There's so much to them, and I love the deep dive in them. Like this scene, this minute especially. There's so many layers and so much to unpack, and is probably one of the, to me now, having rewatched this, for the first time since I was a kid, I was like, oh yeah, this is a lot of good stuff in it that doesn't even get talked about that much, and isn't even touched upon in a lot of the movies. No. So I love that. Maybe people will listen and go back and watch this because it's on HBO Max and it's easy to access.
Yeah.
This movie, and this scene is giving us Batman material and Bruce Wayne material that we have not seen before in the movies.
Absolutely.
And I love it.
And even the script is written well, I think. There's a bit here that says, "A wet rivulet running down one cheek. The rain, or is he letting himself feel?" And I was like, "Oh, that's amazing."
I love it.
One other thing I will note, though, and continue on from earlier in the movie, is that that coat collar refuses to come down. Like, I wonder if this is the one time he's like, I don't need Alfred, I can iron my own coats. And then it's permanently stuck like that now.
Or he likes it. He's like, Alfred, can you starch this, please? I don't want it to ever come down.
Help me for the rain, have to protect himself, his neck from the rain.
Yeah, this guy doesn't give a damn about the rain.
Maybe
It's just me, but if it's raining, I'm like, I'm not going out. Even if I'm
Neil's
mentally
in the
unstable
mud,
at a
like-
graveyard, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, like I'll kneel in the dirt. It's fine. Don't care. Like,
But this
I love it.
The drawings of them, though, are like, it's the closest we've yet come to our Pattinson. Like, the Robert Pattinson. Like, if you just let his hair grow out a little bit, that's basically Robert Pattinson. The whole movie is this wet trench coat, doesn't care about the rain.
I suppose, yeah. But he's about 3 times the size.
Yeah, that's the only thing, yeah. But
I like as well, he says, please, I need it to be different now.
Yeah.
And I think maybe he's like trying to convince himself. I don't believe it is different now, personally, despite how hard he's trying. But he's like, I gotta make myself believe this.
Well, it's very specifically timed, that as well, because he's like, it's after he comes out with a little kind of like, it's like he's making excuses of like, I can give money to the city that can hire more cops.
Yeah, finally dealing with that meme people say about Batman.
And then just like, it's different now. Then you get the ominous shot of the crypt and the lightning strike, as if they're answering him directly there. And then he has the head lowered, and he's like, no, I need it to be different. As if he is interpreting that directly as no, you can't get out of this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
And again, when Bruce eventually dies, he finds out his parents are in hell, because they're just like, we're basically doomed you to a life of like, trying to kill yourself every night. So yeah, we weren't good people, like particularly from beyond the grave.
Well, even more kind of evidence, not that we're trying to prove anything, but that it's very much in his mind, he's literally talking to them. Is in the script again, it says with the gravestone itself, it says he leans forward, clutching the large grave-like marker like he's gripping a man's shoulders. Like, so it's like he's grabbing his dad. He's like shaking him. He's like, Dad, no, I need it to be different.
That's what he said, the grave-like marker. It's like a grave?
I know, I found that a bit weird. Just say clutching the gravestone is fine.
It's like, what's grave like about it? It is a grave. Like, what the hell, man?
Well, you have to be a bit flowery with your scripts, Niall. You'll never sell them otherwise.
No. Would you ever try to work in? You work a lot in horror, Chelsea. Would you ever try to work in grave-like marker in any?
100%.
Yeah.
You will now.
Yeah.
There's a lot because I know again you are a massive horror fan, judging by your social media feeds, at least anyway.
Yes, I'm a massive cinema fan. I just tend to watch also a lot of horror films because I love them and they're sort of my go-to comfort. But I had someone once say to me, because I don't have Letterboxd, Instagram's the only social media I use, and they said, why don't you, because I always post about the movies I watch, and someone looked at them all and said, oh wow, this is like the craziest assortment of movies that you're watching. It's like, yes, I'm consuming all the things, trying to be a well-rounded filmmaker, educated filmmaker, and open to all the genres, but horror is the one I gravitate towards the most, and obviously all my projects I'm working on, except for one, are in the genre space: horror, thriller, sci-fi. And then I'm also working on a sports movie, but that's in a whole other conversation.
So I should ask though, Chelsea, because we are asking people this season like what their other, because BTAS obviously was such a major part of animation when we were youngins. But we're asking people like what their other favorite animated features and shows were back in the day.
Yeah, so I'll start with movies before I go into shows. So movies, like so again, I didn't have access to, like, I had my local library. I didn't grow up with like a Blockbuster. I grew up with like a local video store, Video One, that I missed so much. And then just regular television, didn't have cable, like I said. So my favorite in terms of the animated movie space was Fred Wolf's 1971 movie, The Point. Which is Harry Nilsson, music, Ringo Starr narrates it. I'm a huge I'm a huge
You could not have
Beatles
sold this.
fan.
You could not have sold this to me faster. Right? That was
Yeah, I'm a massive Beatles fan, and so since I can remember, and
we are
obviously
currently recording from Liverpool, Chelsea. So
Yeah,
if you ever want to
there
come
we go.
over, we can show you around all the Beatles places.
Yes, I didn't get to do that last time I was in the UK, so I would love that. But yeah, so that my dad showed me that movie. I highly recommend it. It's about a little boy named Oblio who lives in the land of points. Everything has a point, so everyone has a pointed head, but he is born without a pointed head. It is a round head. Oh. And so he has to go out. He's banned from his town, and he has to go find a point to his life. And so he has a dog named Arrow, and then all the music is Harry Nilsson, and Ringo Starr narrates it, and it is a wild, keep in mind it's the 70s, so it's a little kooky. So that, and also Yellow Submarine, obviously, is a big part of my childhood. I'd watch it all the time. I have it memorized. And then I am a fan of pre-90s Disney. So I'm talking like my favorite Disney is Sword in the Stone, Sleeping Beauty, Robin Hood, obviously, as we talked about, that foxy little fox. And then Black Cauldron and Snow White. Like, I liked that. Once we get into the 90s, I wasn't as connected to those movies. Maybe it could be how the women are portrayed. Who knows? But not that to say that the early ones are any better. But there was something about I just didn't connect with the 90s ones as much. And probably might have to do with when you're looking at sort of the animation that I really connected with. The point being an example, I love the older Disney animation. And also I have to give a shout out to American Tail and Fievel Goes West, because those are ones that I love. But in terms of the shows, like, this isn't technically a show, but my gateway horror was Legend of Sleepy Hollow and like It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. So those were sort of my entry points into my parents are obsessed with Halloween, as am I. So that's sort of what as they introduced it, was watching those things. Obviously, we talked about Scooby-Doo, Batman the Animated Series, the X-Men animated series, I was a big fan of. And when I was much younger, it was like Muppet Babies, The Smurfs, DuckTales, Chip and Dale, like loved all that. But Beetlejuice, the Beetlejuice animated series does not get enough love. And
we've been like really bemoaning the fact that like we just like, because we did a commentary track for Beetlejuice and stuff, and it's like, where is this animated series? Why isn't it on a streaming service? Why isn't it anywhere?
Yes.
What the hell's happening? Why isn't this been marketed everywhere?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that I feel like it's like on the verge. Someone needs to, I can't remember who made it, who released it. But I loved that show. And then the other one I have to give a big shout out to is Thundercats. I am a big Thundercats fan. Like I've been Chitara for Halloween.
Oh, nice.
I'm obsessed. So Beetlejuice is ABC. So ABC Disney. The f***ing mouse owns it. So who knows when we'll get it? They'll probably edit the shit out of it before they put it on a streaming service.
But you know what? They should offer it now. They've got Disney Plus. You've got a section that's only for, I was going to say for adult content. That sounds very, you know what I mean, for more grown-up material. So you could maybe pick, like, if you're logged into the adult account, you can watch the proper one that isn't edited.
Yeah, I wish. It's true. It's very, they don't even have Something Wicked This Way Comes or Watcher in the Woods on Disney Plus. So thank God I own those movies. But you can't even access a lot of stuff, which I get it. They don't want to put it all out, but that should be on there. Get it together.
As you were saying though earlier, Chelsea, when you mentioned like, Mask of the Phantasm was on HBO Max, I did want to chime in for now because
for now,
HBO Max has got a horrific history now of this. Like, it's gone. They just like, you'll never see it again. It's just vanished off the face of the earth.
And this is why I own things like I'm also a big Rocky and Bullwinkle fan. So like I own Rocky and Bullwinkle because you can't get a lot of this stuff. And so I'm a big hard media fan. You should see like my bedroom is lined in movies and I collect vinyl, the whole thing, because these movies at any moment will disappear from these platforms and then you can't get them. So, if you have favorite movies out there, just go buy them on Blu-ray, DVD, whatever. I still have VHS too. But because you don't know at any moment they could disappear. So I'm a big fan of having your collection. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's shaped my my cinema love and the things I find, myself seeking out as comfort, or when I'm sick, what I want to watch. But I highly recommend The Point if you haven't seen it.
They'll definitely be
definitely check it out.
Definitely gonna have to look into that, because that's the thing. I was like, I've never heard of that. So
it sounds
and also
great.
too, because I grew up on Thomas the Tank Engine, which
Oh,
was
yes,
also narrated by Ringo Starr. So that'll be a weird comfort to hear his voice again. Like,
and wasn't it near? And then are you talking about like the live action one?
No, it's the old cartoon they used to show over here.
Oh, the cartoon. Okay,
yeah.
Because the live action one was Ringo Starr, but then I think it's also George Carlin.
Oh, George Carlin.
The,
amazing.
Yeah, I'm almost positive. But The Point you can find on Peacock, Tubi, Freevee, so it's out there, and you can rent it too. So it is, for now, it's available, and it's a breezy 74 minutes.
Nice.
I love a short animated classic. So it's wild, and if you're a Yellow Submarine fan, it's akin to that too, and the songs are great as well. I have the soundtrack, and anyways, but those are the things that have shaped me.
Oh, wow.
All amazing choices.
Yeah.
I can't ever give one. I have to give 20.
No, that's what we're here for. We're hoping people come in stacked. So
That's right.
The only other note I have for this minute in particular is that in the novelization, when Bruce leaves originally, when he does, I just don't know. It notes that he just drives around for an hour. In my mind, instantly went to the Rocky IV driving montage.
Yes.
I was like, I wish they just had Bruce Wayne just driving around, just there's no easy way out. Flashing back to the fight he just had over and over. Like, we just saw it, Stallone. We don't need to see all these flashbacks. God, you just had a montage. What are you doing?
I wish that was in here though, because it's also it adds even more to him being a stereotype of a masculine character. He's punched the wall and then he goes out for a drive. I just need to be alone. I just got to drive my truck.
The whole time you realize, Alfred is his Adrian, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, I'm all noted out for minute 30. Unless anyone else has any parting shots to deliver to minute 30.
no.
I it's great. I love that I got to talk about this minute.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize how good this minute is till we really started. Oh my god, wonderful.
I would always hold this and the next minute, the beginning of the next minute. I would say some of the best Batman content you're ever going to see, quite frankly. So
if that isn't an enticement to tune in on Monday, then I don't know what is. But for now, we will head off into the dark, dark night. Chelsea, would you like to tell people where you can be found online or promote anything you've got coming up, whatever you like?
Yes, I'm on Instagram at Chelsea Stardust. That's the best way to find me. I'm not on anything else. And I have a lot of things percolating. Of course, I have to give the Hollywood bullshit answer of can't talk about it right now. Deals aren't signed. Waiting on stuff because 90% about making movies is waiting.
Big things coming. Local band says. That's always what it is.
Yes, exactly. Things are percolating. But when I can say more, it will be via my Instagram. So that's the way to, if you want to keep up on everything, cool. to find out more.
Well, yes.
You also do have films you have out already, though. Like
yes.
Satanic Panic came out in 2019. I think I've watched it every Halloween since. It's really, really great. It's
yay.
It's one of those ones I describe as it's weird because it's bonkers, gory, batshit insane, crazy horror, but it also has a real warmth and kind of fuzziness about it. It's it's very comforting to watch, though.
Comforting gore.
Yes, that's exactly. That's something. Yeah, that you can find. It actually. I love. I'm always very excited for people to watch it on in October because we actually shot it over October and on Halloween, and so. Even though it takes place on Beltane, which is actually the end of this month, it takes place on April 30th to May 1st. to me, it's such a Halloween movie because that's when I shot it. But that you can find on Shudder, and you can also rent it anywhere. And then All That We Destroy, my first film, which also came out in 2019, that is on exclusively on Hulu. And that's very different. It's like science fiction thriller, an homage to Psycho and Black Mirror, and We Need to Talk About Kevin. It's very dark. Yeah, both movies couldn't be more different. It's a Mother's Day movie.
Features major teenage crush of mine, Samantha Mathis.
Hey.
As that used to be one of my obsessions. But Pump Up the Volume when I was a teenager was just like her, and that was like, oh my God, this is just like absolute perfection.
Yes. She signed my copy of Pump Up the Volume and wrote, talk hard, much love, Samantha. Yeah.
I should also say, too, though, just an additional little plug, though, because that was a thing I really, really loved. I know Satanic Panic was written by Grady Hendrix. Great.
Yes.
And like I've got a stack of his books in front of me. They're all good, but his new one, How to Sell a Haunted House, is like one of the best books I've read in recent years. I was amazed because I was like, oh, this guy's always consistent, and it's like, oh no, he's leapt up to a whole new level with this new one. It's a fantastic book. So even though he's not here,
wonderful.
I'll plug that book for him.
He's the best.
Check all of that out. Although you mentioned Hulu a minute ago, we don't have that over here, but most Hulu stuff ends up on Disney Plus here. So it might be on Disney Plus. Yeah, except for the new Hellraiser. That never appeared on Disney Plus. Don't know why. Don't know.
Oh, I wonder why. Yeah.
But yeah, check all of that out. And as usual, speak to us on Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave, on Twitter at Bat Minute, Instagram the Bat Minute, and why don't you go to our network, Sleepy Charlie Media, on Patreon, where you can get bonus episodes for $2. Nothing. I don't know what we'll be doing by the time you hear this, but something will be out. You've got loads of episodes to catch up with anyway.
Yeah, we might have started our Wayne Murders movie season, where we're going to review each of the movies that the Waynes were going to see in each adaptation of Batman. So we'll have Marco Zorro, Footlight Parade, The Fledermaus. We'll have to watch a production of that.
For reasons that you might remember us talking about, one of the Shrek movies.
Yeah. Well, let's do friggin' Excalibur. We'll have to, because I was in Batman vs. Superman. They're coming out of Excalibur. So we'll have to, if you like the Sword and the Stone, Chelsea.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. We'll tie in beautifully.
Yep, do all of that and join us again on Monday, because we'll be back with more Bat Minute of the Phantasm.
Next time, answers from the great beyond. A millionaire mid-meltdown embraces his tombstone beau, as it seems his spectral sires have thrown him a bone. But as Wayne's awakened via whirlybird from his forlorn flashback, could a counselor being captured in a clandestine car encounter steer our A-plot back on track? It's Wayne's Pains and Automobiles on Monday, Bat Minute Mites. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
Mast top, still fit,